All right, I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Yolo Port District Commission and Board of Directors of the Sacramento-Yolo Port Financing Corporation. We've got some fiscal stuff tonight. So the commission did meet in closed session. So maybe Jeff, if you want to report out on that item.
Absolutely. The commission met in closed session to discuss 3 items concerning real property negotiations. The properties are listed in the agenda. On the action on the item involving Cemex, the Port Commission approved an agreement to defer 3 months of rent under the wharfage agreement, with the repayments set to begin on September 1, 2020. The vote was unanimous. Commissioners Cabaldon, Ledesma, McGowan, Sandin, and Villegas voting aye.
That's it. Thank you, Jeff.
And no action was taken on the other 2 items.
Very good. All right. Thank you for that, Jeff. So all commissioners are present. Let's see. Teresa, were we able to get a flag for the pledge this evening? Or?
Yes, I'm prepared to share the screen. Are you ready?
Oh, perfect. If you can display the flag on our screen, and you'll join me to, maybe Commissioner McGowan can lead us in the pledge. How about that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well said. Thank you for that, Mike. All right. Okay, so then that takes us to item 1, which is presentations by the public on matters that are not on the agenda but within the court's jurisdiction and authority. So, Teresa, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on items that are not on the agenda?
We've received no public comment for this meeting.
All right, so nothing in writing and nobody's raising their hand. Very good. All right, so then item 2 is the consent agenda, which is consideration of the minutes from the February 19th special meeting. We have a motion to approve, assuming all have read minutes.
Moved.
All right, so that's moved by Commissioner Sandin, second by Commissioner Cabaldon. We'll need to do a roll call vote. So Teresa, if you'll do the honors.
Yes, I just want to clarify that there was a revision to those meeting minutes that was emailed to the members, and so that is included in your motion.
Yes, as revised.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I'll take the roll call. Commissioner Cabaldon.
Here. I'm sorry. Yes.
Commissioner Ledesma.
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sandin.
Aye.
And Chair Villegas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for that. Okay, that takes care of item 2. So item 3 is a consideration of adoption of resolution P20-1 approving the port budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. Mr. Dodd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, commissioners. I am going to share a
On the action on the item involving Cemex, the Port Commission approved an agreement to defer 3 months of rent under the wharfage agreement, with the repayments set to begin on September 1, 2020. The vote was unanimous. Commissioners Cabaldon, Ledesma, McGowan, Sandin, and Villegas voting aye.
That's it. Thank you,
and
Jeff.
No action was taken on the other 2 items.
Very good. All right, thank you for that, Jeff. So all commissioners are present. Let's see. Teresa, were we able to get a flag for the pledge this evening? Or?
Yes, I'm prepared to share the screen. Are you ready?
Oh, perfect. If you can display the flag on our screen, and you'll join me to, maybe Commissioner McGowan can lead us in the pledge. How about that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well said. Thank you for that, Mike. All right. Okay, so then that takes us to item 1, which is presentations by the public on matters that are not on the agenda but within the court's jurisdiction and authority. So, Teresa, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on items that are not on the agenda?
We've received no public comment for this meeting.
All right, so nothing in writing and nobody's raising their hand. Very good. All right, so then item 2 is the consent agenda, which is consideration of the minutes from the February 19th special meeting. We have a motion to approve, assuming all have read minutes.
Moved.
All right, so that's
Second.
moved by Commissioner Sandin, second by Commissioner Cabaldon. We need to do a roll call vote. So Teresa, if you'll do the honors.
Yes, I just want to clarify that there was a revision to those meeting minutes that was emailed to the members, and so that is included in your motion.
Yes, as revised.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I'll take the roll call. Commissioner Cabaldon?
Here. I'm sorry. Yes.
Commissioner Ledesma?
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sandin?
Aye.
And Chair Villegas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for that. Okay, that takes care of item 2. So item 3 is a consideration of adoption of resolution P20-1 approving the port budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. Mr. Dodd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, commissioners. I am going to share a PowerPoint presentation on my screen, and there it is. Great. So, we're going to recap first the fiscal year that's about to end June 30. And then we'll get into the projections for 2021. But before we get into the numbers, I wanted to highlight some qualitative projects and happenings from the current fiscal year. And I won't read these all off to you. And I've highlighted four items in yellow there, which I think demonstrates particularly the port's ongoing transition to a real estate focused business plan, which leverages its non-maritime property, namely Seaway and Stone Log.
Rick, I'm not seeing a presentation. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Aaron. It could be that either the hosts have to enable the screen share. That hasn't happened.
I marked all participants can share.
Yeah. Yeah, we can share. So yeah.
Okay. So operator error on my part here. So here we go. Oh. Okay. How's that?
Much better. There you go.
All right. Sorry for that. This is my first Zoom screen sharing. So, okay. So as I was saying, before we get into the numbers for the budget for both this year and the projection for next year, I just wanted to highlight some projects kind of qualitatively that demonstrate the port's transition to a real estate oriented business plan, and particularly, leveraging its non-maritime property assets, Seaway and Stone Lock. Also highlights the port's growing role in the Pioneer Bluff deindustrialization. So these 4 projects that are highlighted in yellow illustrate those, as well as kind of the ongoing recreational component to the port. So that first is the Boat Club project, which is underway as a follow-up to the Lake Washington cleanup project. Just before the coronavirus crisis hit, we did the ribbon cutting for the Barge Canal Trail project on the Stone Lock 1 property. We approved a parcel map for the northeast quadrant of the Seaway property related to Project Titan. It kind of sets the stage for development of that entire quadrant. And then we started planning in earnest this year with together with Shell and their consultant for the shutdown of the Shell tank farm property in Pioneer Bluff, which, as you may recall, we have a binding agreement in place to acquire that property after it is demolished and cleaned up. And so you'll see progress on that in 2021. The other real estate assets and projects to be determined, but I just wanted to highlight that for you. And before we move on to the numbers, any comments on those projects?
Any questions by members of the commission? Hearing none, go ahead, Rick.
Okay. So reviewing quickly the current fiscal year's budget, you can see that revenues ticked down a little bit from last year. Much of that was related to a decrease in rail fees. The Manson construction yard lease is termination. It was intentional and related to the boat club expansion project. And finally, we had a deal with T-Mobile, but their merger with Sprint canceled another cell phone lease that we had anticipated. On the expense side, we're up a tick, and much of that is related to personnel. And I'm going to introduce later in this, before the end of the meeting, we're going to introduce you to our new analyst, Megan Stiles, who will be working 50% for the port and 50% for the city. And then you may recall the YC Parmia excess property insurance settlement that we agreed to last year. And we prepaid the second installment of that in this fiscal year, and there'll be no payment next fiscal year. So bottom line, while our net operating income is down by 8% to almost 1.2 million, still a very successful year, our third consecutive year netting over $1 million. And so that is the current fiscal year in a nutshell. Any questions on the current year?
Questions, sir? Hearing none.
And that performance was in fact partially due to a really good year on the maritime side. We handled almost 720,000 tons of cargo, which is the highest since 2004. A lot of that being cement. I do believe, and so while the news is good, I do believe this is a peak year. During the last recession, we saw cement imports decline to zero, and they stayed at zero for 5 years. So, I know along with what we're seeing on the rail side, I think we've peaked in terms of our goods movement function in this economic cycle. But good news nonetheless on the cargo side, and really too early to kind of speculate about next year, but I would anticipate a decline. And just a quick summary of our capital program. We underspent this year, but we did some nice things. We spent almost, we spent a little over $420,000, including some real estate development costs for the Seaway property, some rail relocation planning, and that Yolo Habitat Conservancy prepayment penalty, which it stands as a credit on the books, by the way. And that leaves us with a cash balance as of July 1 of 2020 of about $3 million, which represents a little more than 2 times our operating expenses. So we have a pretty healthy reserve. That number is subject to reconciliation with the city. Roberta Raper, the city's financial or administrative services director, and effectively the director of finance is on the meeting as well. And she and I have been working to reconcile that number. It's probably going to come up by about $200,000 when you account for working capital. So good news there. So that's a wrap on 1920. And I'm going to proceed to projections for next year. And so this is just a snapshot of the top of the spreadsheet attachment to your staff report that provides all the detail for both revenues and expenditures for next year. And so we can get into those questions at the end if you have any specific questions. But just to highlight, we're being conservative on our revenue projections for next year. I've assumed kind of in the talking about how we just peaked or probably peaked on the tonnage and the rail. I'm assuming no vessel fees for next year and reducing rail by 76%. And then our log yard tenant, which exports logs to China, is showing some signs of duress. So and they're a major tenant. They're one of our larger tenants. So I reduced their rent significantly. On the expense side, we did achieve a 6% reduction. That's in light of the personnel budget increase, and most of that can be attributed to not making that excess property insurance payment to YC Parmia. That leaves us with a net profit for the year of almost $1 million and an end-of-year cash projection of approaching $4 million. So while there's reason for caution, the coronavirus has not really impacted the port yet. It has not skipped a beat. In fact, on the maritime side, it's operating as an essential infrastructure, and I don't see a drastic fall off next year, although we are anticipating some reduced level of activity. And so, based on that, we are we still need a budget for capital. We've tied that to so I'm proposing a capital budget of $200,000 for next year, tied to one-time revenues, which we know are coming in. They'll likely be higher, but just to comment on those one-time revenues, a little over $200,000, $202,000 will be transferred from one of the city's impact fee funds for Southport to the port, and the basis for that is the phase 1 of the Seaway map, which is the Westbridge Plaza shopping center, or where Lowe's is anchored. And we did a lot of forensic accounting. I'll describe it as forensic accounting this year to reconcile what was due to the port and what the port's priority was relative to other Southport developers. And we have concurrence with both the city and port attorneys on that. So, and you can see just kind of the general expense categories that I'm looking at for the coming fiscal year, including rail relocation planning, a bit of a wild card. We'll dial back the North Terminal improvement budget. but we really want to proceed with the soil groundwater cleanup project as well. So there you have it. I am happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions by any of the members of the commission?
Yeah, I just have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Yeah, Rick, in terms of, we have the operating agreement that is, on the horizon, and planning for any potential transitions or other changes related to that. Do we have funds allocated in the budget, sufficiently in order for us to appropriately prepare and take the other actions that will be necessary during fiscal year 2021 in order to prepare for the various alternatives that are and will be before us?
So we really count on our cash reserves to fund any expenses related to that transition. Much of that is just my time, but we will be completing the Enterprise Bridge feasibility study at the end of this year, and we'll have a better sense of what our costs might be preparing for future transitions. But I think our cash reserves are sufficient to allow us to continue that planning effort.
All right, I guess that's helpful. Thank you. And I would just encourage you and the Port CEOs as you're continuing fiscal planning throughout the year that of the alternatives that may be available to us, some of them have there are variations in implementation costs, transition costs, depending on how that all plays out. And in addition to planning, we also may need to prepare for other possibly transition expenses and others. So we obviously don't know what any of that is at this point, but we should be sure that we have sufficient funds available to us, because it's such a critical part of our function here. So, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? Capital plan.
Chair, just to echo some of that, and Commissioner Cabaldon just outlined. You took revenue from vessel and cargo down to zero, which is about as conservative as you can get. But there's so much we don't know in terms of any impacts. I'd agree is playing out some what if scenarios in the worst of times is probably the best of exercises as things are happening now, because that would be my concern during the time is just what we don't know, and being prepared with reserves or whatever other possible cuts or pulling back we need to do, just to make sure we don't get in a situation where we may have to go to some other source or give up on assets to generate cash flow for the port. That's kind of the worst case scenario. We've done a really good job over the past few years transitioning to this business model, but it's going to test it a little bit, and we just don't know to what depth. So anyway, appreciate the update.
And Rick, we're still largely operating off of the 2013 business plan. Is that right? We haven't made any significant changes or updates to that plan.
That's right. So at the time.
Yeah, that thing has been it has been time tested. I mean, I think, obviously you and Aaron were essential in putting the meat on those bones. And that plan, as I go back occasionally and read it, it's timeless. I mean, it has served us very well, and I think the port is much leaner than it was when we put that together. I mean, I think I was on the verge of literally. I mean, I'll speak to that forever, but the port was in a very different space, and I think we've done an amazing job of sticking to what the plan kind of key principles are, and we're now in the black, and we've seen a uptick in both the rice and the cement last year, which not totally surprising, but you've done a good job of managing the essential parts of getting us to where we are today, which is an amazing place to be, where we can talk about a surplus that puts us in a position to actually identify some of these key capital projects going forward and start to look at how we might be able to affect some of that. So we're in a good space. Thank you. McGowan, you still with us?
I am with you, totally.
Just making sure you had no questions or comments. I think we're wrapping up this item.
No, actually, I got a little briefing from Rick the other day, and I appreciate it very, very much. And actually, thanks for asking, because I'm just impressed with the hard work that's gone into this budget, and I appreciate it.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments on this item? You are finished, right, Rick?
I am, thank you. And there is a recommended action to adopt a resolution approving the budget.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the recommended action.
All right, so moved by Ledesma.
Second.
Second by Cabaldon. And we'll do a roll call vote if you would, Teresa.
Yes. Commissioner Commissioner Ledesma.
Aye.
Commissioner McGowan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sandine.
Aye.
Commissioner Cabaldon.
Aye.
And Chair Villegas.
Aye. Okay, thank you. So that item carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Rick and Aaron, for all your work on that item. Okay, that takes us to item 4, which is general administration functions. Item A is commission reports. Are there any reports by members of the commission? Hearing none. Port CEO report. Anything to report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to thank Rick for all of his work on the budget, and also to Roberta for her help for the past couple of years now. The budget, which used to be a lot of my focus, has been fully transitioned to Rick and the finance team, doing a great job with it, better than we were doing before, I think. So yeah, just wanted to acknowledge Rick for that. Thank you, and Roberta. I also just wanted to, Rick mentioned it earlier, and we have her on the call. Megan Stiles is now a city employee, but her time is split, as Rick mentioned, half time between the port, half time in the city manager's office. We are very happy to have her on board. I think she comes to us most recently from Congresswoman Matsui's office, but she's also been ties to West Sacramento for a long time with her prior work at the Chamber of Commerce. That goes back a ways, but very happy to have her back in West Sacramento. She'll be working on lots of different things, definitely helping on port real estate, other port issues, but in the city manager's office, she's gonna be doing a lot, and we're really grateful to have her to supplement what we do in our office. So I don't know if you wanted to have her say hi, but just wanted to make that introduction or reintroduction.
Yeah, we'd love to have her say hi, Megan. Welcome. She's joined us, right?
Hi. Yeah, thank you. This is my first Port Commission meeting, so a little over my head, but trying to follow everything and get caught up, and happy to be here. So yeah, kind of a unique way to start a job, but here I am.
Well, we're happy to have you, so welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I echo those sentiments? I heard about this the other day, and I'm very, very excited that Megan's back in the fold and back home where she belongs, and really, really think it's great for us to have her as part of our team. So welcome back.
Thanks, Mike.
We don't all agree on that, for sure. All right. Any other comments or questions? If not, we are looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And we
Aye.
Aye, one at a time. Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
Mr. Attorney, one at a time. All those in favor. So, Teresa, if you call the roll.
Yes. Commissioner McGowan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sandine.
Aye.
Commissioner Cabaldon.
Aye.
Commissioner Ledesma.
Aye.
And Chair Villegas.
Aye. All right. So with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.